The LGBT movement, it's a religion. Their sacred text has to do with climate change. Of course,
Okay, well, let's listen to this Jesus-loving Mission 7 pastor talk about drywalling while under house arrest while he's sitting on a futon. What are we watching? If you are still here, we have the same thing wrong with us, I'm sure. And it's not the gayness, okay? Shut up. This video contains subject matter which may be inappropriate for some viewers. Hello, you stunning woman on the go. Welcome back to my channel. My name is David Day, and you are watching Dismantling Hate, the series where I find some hateful online content and we react to it with sharp analysis, unapologetic resistance, a lot of road noise, and just enough comedy to keep us from losing our minds. Today we're going to be talking about a man by the name of Derek Reimer.
But my interest is the word monster.
And we'll start with this recent headline. Acquittals overturned. New trial ordered for preacher who led anti-drag protest. A Calgary judge has ordered a new trial for a pastor who was originally acquitted on charges of causing a disturbance and mischief stemming from one of his anti-drag protests. The ruling comes one day after Derek Reimer, 38, was released following a 2-month stint in the Calgary Remand Center where he was held after his arrest for breaching his conditional sentence order by protesting on the courthouse steps earlier this year despite being on house arrest. The conditional sentence order was imposed in December after Reimer was convicted of harassing a librarian related to her branch's hosting of a drag reading event. On Tuesday, Justice Brandy Shaw of Alberta's Provincial Court found that Reimer breached his CSO but released him on a time-served sentence. In the spring of 2023, Reimer faced several sets of charges after he was arrested 3 times in 5 weeks while protesting reading with royalty events hosted at Calgary Public Library branches across the city. The events involved drag queens reading stories to children. Reimer and his supporters called the drag queens perverts and described the events as pervert grooming sessions that are wrong and evil. And just as a reminder, perverts come in all shapes, sizes, and denominations, so just because somebody is one thing doesn't mean they are inherently not a pervert. Moving on. Reimer was convicted on 2 sets of charges, including criminal harassment, but was acquitted by Justice Alan Fradsham. What's with all these people having sham in their name? It's never a good sign. Of the provincial court on charges of mischief and causing a disturbance connected to an incident at the Seton Library in 2023. That day, Reimer entered the reading room, yelling and hurling insults at drag performers before he was physically thrown out of the room by some of the adult attendees. Fradsham ruled that while Reimer's actions were inconsiderate and disrespectful, they did not cross the line into criminal acts. The judge found that the operation of the Seton branch continued unabated after Reimer left. Prosecutors appealed that ruling, and on Wednesday, Court of King's Bench Justice Nancy Carruthers overturned the acquittals. Come on, Court of King's Bench Justice Nancy Carruthers. Carruthers found that the trial judge erred when he focused on the impact Reimer's behavior had on the library's operation rather than on the people participating in the event. In a statement provided to CBC News, Reimer's lawyer Andrew McKenzie said, "The overturning of a summary conviction acquittal is extremely rare," and called the decision troubling, and a new date for trial has not been set. Now for his criminal history. After Fradsham's acquittals, Justice Karen Mole of the Provincial Court convicted and sentenced Reimer for harassing the Saddletown librarian in early 2023. Reimer appealed his convictions but lost. Just imagine harassing a librarian. What a person to harass. Last October, Reimer was found guilty of breach charges stemming from his protests. For those convictions, he was fined $500. The pastor has had a history with the justice system in both Alberta and Manitoba, with convictions including animal abuse and aggravated assault. In 2015, Reimer was handed 12 months probation after a Calgary judge found him guilty of causing suffering to a dog. Like, screaming at drag queens is one thing. We're used to it. Don't cause suffering to Anyway, between 2011 and 13 in Winnipeg, Reimer was convicted of 2 counts of aggravated assault and assault causing bodily harm. Let's peel it back, because this week we're going to take a look at a video that is called CHP Talks, Derek Reimer arrested for protecting kids. Hashtag protest, am I right, ladies? And I'm pretty sure CHP stands for the Christian Heritage Party. So this is some guy's podcast episode, but we're going to get a look into Derek Reimer and why he thinks that drag queens reading to kids is quite possibly the worst thing to exist ever. The video's 45 minutes long. We're gonna watch it a little bit sped up for my ADHD girlies out there. And yeah, we're gonna, oh yeah, okay, also there's terrible t-shirts on his website. Jesus Christ matters, guilty for being Christian, freedom in Jesus, fear God not COVID-19, Jesus saves, masks don't, unvaxxed is a hill to die on, Jesus is the vaccine, sin is the real pandemic, choose life not death, no vaccine formed against us shall prosper. And it does say new arrivals, but it seems to me that these t-shirt designs are a little bit, como se dice, dated. Anti-maskers, anti-vaxxers, that's so 2020. Get over it. I'm gonna slide over, we're gonna roll the intro, and let's get into it. Dismantling Hate starts now. I'll scream at drag queens while you're sharpening your knife. My name is Derek Reimer. I have no personality. I am God. Okay, the description of this video reads, my guest this week is Pastor Derek Reimer of Calgary. Derek feeds and ministers to the homeless in Calgary, but was arrested for peacefully protesting biblical truth at a drag queen story hour. We know the context. We know he wasn't peacefully protesting. He was arrested again for attempting to discuss with a library manager the use of a public library for these types of events. He served 105 days behind bars and has now served 9 months of a 12-month sentence under house arrest. He is not allowed to pastor at his church, and his regular work as a drywaller has been limited by restrictions imposed by his probation officer. This has seriously reduced his family's income. That poor family. Derek Reimer, let's go.
Welcome, viewers and listeners, to another edition of CHP Talks. I'm here today with Pastor Derek Reimer from Calgary, and I'm going to tell you a little bit
The man on the right, don't take this the wrong way, but he reminds me of a character from VeggieTales. I'm going to have to Google that later. Editing me might have been very insulting just now. Oh well, back to my life.
But Derek, thanks for taking the time to join us today.
Thanks for having me.
And Derek Reimer is the founder of Mission 7 Ministries, a Christian outreach that feeds the poor and preaches the...
Watch all censored and banned Christian Heritage Party talks. Oh, they have their own thing. Sorry, I forgot to speed it up. Let's keep going.
...each week in Calgary's downtown, and he's been doing that since 2016. He also formed a protest movement in late 2022 called Exposing Darkness, something Christians are supposed to do, exposing the works of darkness. Its objective is to protect children from programs that propagate transgender and homosexual ideologies.
Not that it's more acceptable to be transphobic than it is to be homophobic, but it's definitely more common to be transphobic instead of both of them together. So, okay, just getting the lay of the land here. What does Rod Taylor and Derek Reimer think about the gays?
And today he's speaking to us from his home because
he's under house arrest. Oh, that's too bad. Tears for Reimer.
Under house arrest. And we're going to be talking about that. So, again, Derek, thanks for joining us today. I guess you maybe have a little bit more time when you're under house arrest, then although you have a meeting later tonight that you will be conducting by Zoom, I understand.
Yeah, I do. Every Wednesday we have our house church, and you're right. I have some more time now at home, but just trying to use that.
As I was flipping through their website, trying to get an understanding of who this man is, there were podcast episodes. I can do that because I have a podcast also, and it was really bad for a long time, but now it's good. Go watch D-Talk with David Day. I just wrapped filming season 3. Anyhow, yeah, where they do podcast episodes where he's sitting on his futon just like this. What a world. Like, where do we... It's fine.
Good, and stay busy, and to the glory of God. So thanks for having me on.
Well, very good. So we're going to be talking about the house arrest and the events that led up to that, and what, how that is affecting you and your family. But first, just tell us a little bit about yourself, your growing up years, and what you've been doing for a living. And
okay, this is perfect. This is exactly the video I wanted it to be. We need to know who he is and what the whole deal is. Come on, tell us.
Just bring us a little bit up to date. Who is Derek Reimer?
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in southeastern Manitoba, just southeast of Winnipeg, in a small town called Landmark. Actually, we're about 2 miles west of Landmark, and that's around Steinbach, Niverville, Lorette area, Ile-des-Chênes area. And I moved out to Calgary in my late 20s. Growing up, I grew up in a Christian home. I fell away from the faith in my teens and have a bit of a colorful past, but I came back to the Lord when I moved out to Calgary. And I've been keeping myself busy, being self-employed with drywalling. I've been doing that since 2006. And I started when I gave my life.
Do lots of pastors also have like a side hustle? I've never really seen that. I guess, to be fair, I don't really know many pastors. Is it that tough out there that you need to be drywalling on the side? Or is he doing his pastor stuff on the side? Is that what the side gig is? That might make more sense.
To the Lord and got baptized, just a lover and a follower of Christ. The Lord had founded this ministry through me called Mission 7, which Rod had briefed you on. And yeah, it's just been incredible. Just walking the streets of downtown Calgary, praying for people, giving them food, listening to them, and sharing my testimony and preaching the word of God. And then it's just evolved into what it is today, where we set up tables and we feed them, we water them, we minister to them. Someone sing.
Watering them makes it sound like they're a plant. Or like an animal. I guess humans are animals. It just sounds very dehumanizing, framing it like that. And there's pieces of that are good. I'm sure a lot of people would be thankful to receive a meal from somebody just walking around. And that's great. There are pieces of that are good if we take the religion piece out.
As I preach, people pray, and there's about 12 volunteers that come out, about 10 to 12 every week, every Saturday. And we feed and take care of, I would say, 60 to 80 homeless people. And that's our congregation out there, and it's turned into a community. So I'm very grateful for that. And also, as he mentioned, in late 2022, I formed this protest movement called Exposing Darkness. And that comes from Ephesians 5:11, and have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness.
Wait a second. Okay, this is only for the people who have seen my Larry Heather videos. Go back and watch those if you're into this. Mission 7. Now I feel like I might have seen this man's organization in action, because there are definitely tables that are set up that are close to Harry Leather with his anti-drag queen signs. So is Derek Reimer also affiliated with Larry Heather? That would be quite a connection. They both come from the same community. Okay, I'm gonna have to go and do some investigative journalism. I'll report back in a different video if they are besties and are working together. It would make sense. Anyway, okay.
Rather expose them. And expose in the Greek means to tell a fault. So we're supposed to shine our light on the darkness. So the Lord just put...
Don't let Satan blow it out, bestie. I know that's right.
My heart, like he put it into Nehemiah's heart to build the wall. And I just knew that I had to be organized and go to these drag queen story events, peacefully assembling and preaching and rebuking it and exposing it and inviting
But what are you exposing, Mary? Like, there's that
relationship to Jesus Christ. So we had done that. We were very successful. We shut down a number of events and canceled them. And
hashtag canceled.
The government and the mayor in Calgary here, they shut us down by criminally charging me and arresting me, and we'll get into that in just a bit.
Sure. So you were going into the actual drag queen story hour events and addressing issues with those conducting events, and apparently they didn't appreciate that.
Yeah. So it started off that we were just outside the venues, and we'd hold signs, posters, preach, play music. But after doing that a few times, I got this idea, why don't we go inside the library? Let's go exactly where these programs are taking place. And
I had this idea. It came to me. Eureka, you found it. What a mess.
Go share how we feel about it. This is a public event in a public library. We are the public.
As if the people inside the library didn't know what the skinhead protesters thought outside with the anti-drag signs. We know.
If you don't like that, then make these private events. And we'll have to kind of re-strategize then. So in any case, we took advantage of the opportunity. We situated ourselves inside the library, waiting for this program to start and what it was looking like. And there was 3 of us, and one at a time we went in, and I went last and rebuked it, exposed it, recorded it. And
what does that mean, though? Like, saying rebuke it, that's not very descriptive. What does that mean? I guess I've been watching a lot of Judge Judy where it's like, no, don't describe it to me. Literally say the words that you said. He's leaving out some key details here that determine whether he was being peaceful or not. And I don't think he was being peaceful, because if you were being peaceful, you wouldn't be thrown out by other adult attendees. Interesting.
About Jesus, and then one by one, the volunteers, the protesters, my friends, they would get kicked out. And then I went in, and I did exactly the same thing. And I walked in, I walked to the front of the room where the drag queen and king were performing. And I just started to say, like, parents, don't expose your kids to this perversion, and turn to Jesus Christ. And this is vile, this is wicked, that kind of preaching, that kind of rhetoric. And then these adults, these parents, it was 2 or 3 of them, these males, they grabbed me physically and they dragged me out of that room in front of the children, in front of everybody.
Good for those men. Good for those men. Violence is never the answer, but what he's describing isn't necessarily violent either. If you're disturbing a show, you would be drug off by security. It's not necessarily violent, it's just stopping what's happening. The people are there to see the performers, not you, Derek.
I was clutching at the walls, trying to keep my balance. I had a GoPro on. I was trying to record the events that were taking place inside the room, but I had technical difficulties, unfortunately. You see a video that has actually gone viral 2.5 years ago, where they throw me out of the program room, out of this glass room. My head bangs off the glass door and I fall onto my back. And I got up and I just continued to preach. I did not return or have a reaction of any kind of aggression, any kind of violence. I just said that's not very loving, or that's kind of hateful, for love is love. And I continued to preach and encourage them to repent and turn to Jesus. Security.
Just like the Energizer Bunny, right? Like he's describing being injured and then just popping back up and like continuously preaching like a robot. That's scary. They really just have the most opposite head shapes possible, hey? And that's coming from a diva with a huge head. Like, stones from glass houses, of course, but yeah.
Or people that were working at the library, and it's hard to know who is who, especially with a situation like that. Yeah. So I just continued to preach around the programming room as people are coming up to me and talking to me and asking me to leave, and I just thought, no, I can preach my religion, my beliefs. There's a freedom of that. This is wicked. This is dark. This is sinful, and we need to address this and we need to expose it. So what had happened...
Well, what is there to expose? Like, explain it to me. I'm a logical, critically thinking person. If you explain to me your reasoning, I will think about it. And I want to know what it is. I hope we get to it in this video. I have a feeling there won't be anything, because there can't be anything. Drag is dress up. Drag is just putting on makeup. Story time is important for children's literacy. Reading is fundamental. What is the issue? Gay people is the issue, and trans people are just the cherry on top, as you always were.
I didn't leave, and they called the police, and the police said that they will trespass me if I don't leave, and I'll be charged, I could be arrested. And I said, okay, well, peacefully leave. And I was just kind of waiting for some kind of authority, and I'll respect that, and then I'll leave. But people just coming up to me at the library, I don't know who these people are, and I mentioned that specifically because I came up in court, like, kind of to my detriment and to my fault. So in any case, I went outside and we just continued doing what we always do. We preached and we worshiped and we rebuked, and we had our posters, and there was counter protesters out there as well. So the mayor didn't like this very much. And our mayor, she has a transgender child. This has been speculative in the past interviews, but this has been recently confirmed through many...
Jody Gondek, she's no longer our current mayor, but at the time she was. Huh.
There were at least a few sources that are credible. And she went on a Twitter tirade where, I'll paraphrase, where the bylaws aren't severe enough and we need to criminalize this behavior, these protests that are rooted in hate. who's defining that that's rooted in hate?
The Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Not that it has so much meaning, especially for teachers anymore, especially in the province of Alberta. But that's a different video that you can go watch at your leisure. Okay, I knew I voted for Jody for a reason. Work, Jody. Love that. Yeah, because it is rooted in hate.
So what had happened then after that Twitter tirade and that rant, hate units came to my door early one morning, about a half a week later, saying, you got to come with us. You're going to get charged. And I didn't go with them. I couldn't get a hold of my lawyer. I wasn't sure what was happening. It was like 7:15 in the morning. I woke up to...
What does hate groups mean? Who showed up at your door?
On my door. Excuse me. And I didn't go. So cops had actually arrested me later on that week. Rebel News was with me. They had filmed the whole arrest. And that was my first arrest out of 3 that were just kind of upcoming in the near future.
Oh, sorry, the phone was ringing. I forgot to turn it off. So, when you talk about being dragged out, that's the first time I connected being dragged out with a drag queen story hour. So,
come on, Rod's a comedian. F off. Like, it's not.
That's a drag. That they treated it that way. And, you were speaking truth in a peaceful manner. And we know that what was going on in there with these drag queen story hours is little children, their minds are being abused by, manipulative behavior that is going to, in many cases, lead to lifestyle decisions that are going to be harmful to these children. So
oh, God, so many things. Okay, being gay, being queer, being trans is not a lifestyle decision. Everything else that you get to decide in your life is a lifestyle decision. Doing drag could be a lifestyle decision. Come on, Maddie Morphosis. Like, you don't have to be gay in order to be doing drag. And you don't have to be doing drag just because you're gay. I mean, you kind of... No, that's a joke. We're just not connecting the dots. And if we're talking about manipulation, how can these people talk about manipulation when their whole foundation of approaching the world is from a text that is so manipulative? How do we not see the parallels between that? The whole point of queer culture is to do whatever you want, is to show up in the world in whatever way you feel most authentic and right. That is not the point of the Bible. The point of the Bible is to shut up, sit down, and listen because I am right. That's the manipulation. I'm also kind of impressed that they're sitting here just very matter of fact, like, yeah, gay people are the devil, it's the worst thing. I don't know why I'm assigning them a country western accent, because I think both of them are from my city, so they talk like I do. Okay, let's keep going.
Seeking to protect children from harm, and yet...
If we're protecting children from harm, let's start in the church.
Parents of these children, it's amazing to me that parents would take up the cudgel against the truth and against someone who wants to protect their children from harm. But I guess they don't recognize the harm that is coming with these false and deceptive. It's essentially an advertising campaign for the gay lifestyle, for the LGBT agenda. So that was
This man is so far behind the times. Like, we've dealt with this kind of nonsense, old white religious man banter back in 2015. I was there. I remember, Bob. Rod. I'm not happy, Rod. Not happy. Also, he sounds like he's talking with a mouthful of marbles. I can be mean because he's a bigot, okay?
Because the mayor who was in the chair at the time?
Yes, that's correct.
So, how often were they holding these what they call drag queen story hours, whatever, and how many places in Calgary?
Well, it was pretty frequent, and there's different programs. There's a Reading with Royalty program that was primarily in libraries, but they also had all-age drag shows in pubs, and you heard that right, pubs, where they would have a special license to have minors in these pubs for these shows. They would have them at different...
In the daytime, with probably no alcohol being served on a Sunday. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. I'm sorry, it's not. And if you can't understand that nuance, Then maybe you need to go to one. Except, no, Derek, you don't go to one? Oh, but he can't because house arrest. Okay, moving on.
And there was a rec room here that is like a gaming center, and just kind of all over the place. So we would have to prioritize where we're going because there's so many of these shows. So I'm kind of moving forward with this story. I get arrested. I get let out on bail, and we went to another drag event. I got arrested again, out on bail. And I'm trying to work within the parameters of my bail conditions and finding out, re-strategizing what we can do and how I can go about it, where I can't go a certain, distance of these libraries. I can't be in the libraries. I can't, and those are on drag event days. I can't talk about or post certain information. So it's getting a bit tricky, but we're working and weaving within that. So I thought, okay, before I got arrested the third time, I'm going to go into the library when it's not the day of a drag event. I'm not breaching.
And harass the librarian. That's where this is going.
And I'm going to go talk to the manager about how I feel about this. So I just went in. I don't even know who the manager is.
She knew you before you stepped foot in that library. She knew how you felt, and she didn't give a rip, bestie.
I asked, and she came over. And I said to her, do you think it's okay to have these pervert grooming sessions? That's what I refer to it as. And
already kicked out. Pervert grooming sessions? You mean church?
Even though that opinion, that expression, and that language may be offensive to some people, that's not criminal. And that's what Justice Fradsham had said regarding even Seton Library with some of my language and my words. And there's a place for some of this. In the Bible, just a real quick reminder, if somebody is...
Sorry, the Bible has nothing to do with the law. The Bible is not grounded in logic or reason or anything that is useful. Period, full stop. Nobody cares about what your fictitious book has to say. That cannot be part of your reasoning as to why you are going out there and calling people perverts with no other knowledge about the history of drag beyond just you viewing it as something perverted. It's just art. It's just makeup. Would this man have a problem with a straight man putting on a wig and dancing around as a woman for a funny bit in a television show or something? It's most often the case that people like this are more afraid of the act of femininity within itself. So if it's still somebody who is over masculinized doing drag, like let's say Mrs. Doubtfire, then they would be more okay with it. It's femininity that they're afraid of, and there's a reason for that. It's not a good reason, but there's a reason.
Cheating on their spouse, they're referred to as an adulterer. Somebody kills somebody, they're a murderer. Somebody tells something that's not true, they're referred to as a liar. So even Jesus uses strong language when necessary. And even in Matthew 23, he rebukes the Pharisees and calls them hypocrites, I believe it's 7 times.
Sorry, Mr. Bible Scholar, when did Jesus call people perverts? I'm gonna need the Bible citation for that.
I'm using some strong language to describe a darkness, a wickedness, a principality, and this sickness that has infiltrated our culture, our cities, our nation, our world, and it's all over the place. And we need to address it as such.
Yeah, the word perversion basically is to use something for a purpose other than that for which it was intended. I think it's taking...
So what is being used for the purpose other than what is intended? Femininity? What is being used against its original intent? I don't know.
Marriage, for instance, between a man and a woman, which is how God intended it.
Oh, sorry, I was focused on drag, and apparently we're still stuck in homophobia. Got it.
And applying that word to another type of sexual relationship, and people are perverting the sexual, basically the sexual dynamic for humanity from what God intended, and are also...
Come on, other animals are gay. Why is it wrong when humans do it, okay? Penguins, dolphins, lots of same-sex animal couples out there. Shout out to you if you're watching this.
Perverting words. They are using words in a way to change the meaning, using words in a way that they were not intended to be used. I mean...
Who gives a flying fuck, Rod Taylor?
Gay, for instance, used...
Gay? No. Race?
And... cheerful and living a free, happy lifestyle.
Oh.
Now it means something entirely different. So,
yeah,
so I think the word pervert or perversion is not out of place there. I mean, pervert can be used in a pejorative sense to demean a human being, but I understand using it in the sense of you folks are perverting the sexual relationship designed by God.
And I mean, most drag performers are queer to some extent, but they don't have to be. But there is a big overlap, so I can see the connection. There's a correlation, but there isn't causation. Again, Mattimorphosis, first straight drag queen ever in the whole world. And then Joey J, the first gay drag queen ever in the world. Joey.
That's my take on that word.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, in Kings, I think it's King Asa and Jehoshaphat, they removed the perverted persons from the land. So this is a biblical word. I do read a New King James Version. So
Again, I'm sorry, I get these people care about religion, but that has nothing to do with anything other than what some guy wrote in a book one time.
Those words will come out, and nowadays, kind of more in modern times, people find that not politically correct. They find it offensive, and this is kind of a verbiage that I'm used to using. So in any case, I expressed how I felt about it. She says, you know what, this conversation is over and you have to leave.
Okay.
And I'm offended, she said. And I said, that's fine. I said, you can be offended. We can leave this conversation. But I said, but we're offended at the corruption of kids and sexualization of children. And they proceeded to escort me out with security.
But how are we making the connection between the sexualization of children? Because in this term, what does sexualization actually mean? Drag is just an art form, and every art form can and is sexualized in some of its formats. Like music, you have kids' music and then you have adults' music. You have kids' paintings, you have adults' paintings. Every form of art is appropriate for some and inappropriate for others, and drag is no different. Art is for everybody and can be designed as such, so it's not inherently sexual. We know this. We've talked about this so many times on this channel, but some people really haven't got the message.
Did peacefully, and I wasn't there to make a scene, wasn't there to yell and shout, but that wasn't the point. The point was just to have peaceful conversation, even though we can agree to disagree and have differing views. But I never would have thought that would have led to a harassment charge, and that is the outrageous part of this. So we had an interaction that was about 90 to 100 seconds. I left peacefully, said, if you continue to have these events, then we'll be back, like to peacefully protest. That's what I'm intending. That's what I'm saying. And I said, okay, God bless. And that's what we did.
No.
But I wasn't even on the scene because I have certain stipulations that prevent me from being so. So I was about 800 meters away, just preaching by myself at an intersection, just preaching the gospel, preaching.
Just imagine that mental image, right? You roll up to a stoplight and there's, thank God his name's on here, there's Derek Reimer just standing with a sign preaching to cars. And everybody's windows are closed, trying to avoid eye contact.
What's happening in their neighborhood, what's taking place and transpiring in their libraries. And I
Trans?
arrested that day for that conversation with that library just days prior. So I got arrested for harassment. The other part of the harassment charge...
If what he's explaining is true, I could see how that's a little bit outlandish, but I also don't think I trust what he's saying. I think he's leaving pieces out that contributed to the harassment charge. But I could be wrong.
They made it stick in court was that I had posted this on Facebook, our interaction, and then I had called on other people who agreed with me then to call her at the public library.
Okay, well, he didn't leave it out. Yeah, that's that's inciting harassment. So that's exactly what harassment is.
Had the library's public phone number and said, hey, if you're disgusted like I am and you're appalled at this, just call and let her know. Our tax dollars paid.
You're inciting harassment. What a man.
So it's a public event at a public library, a public servant, and as the public, we're not allowed now to call a public number and let her know how we feel? Like, this is ludicrous.
Yeah. So that was your first interaction there where you got dragged out of the drag queen story hour. That was the spring of 23.
Rod, that joke is tired. It's time to move on.
Sorry. Just to clarify, the Seton Library incident, that was in February 2023, where I was thrown out or dragged out of the program. And then about a month later, I went and I spoke to this manager, and that led to my third arrest. But also get this, when it went to court, and we fought all of this,
and now he's still losing.
Harassment, they needed more encounters, like a frequency where it would constitute a harassment. So 2 was very weak. So what they did with the third interaction, directly or indirectly, they amended the dates. So they stretched the dates of when I was being charged. Let's say it was May 27th to April 1st. They stretched it to what did I say there? March 27th to April 1st. Let's say it was to March 25th. I can't remember exactly the dates, but they stretched and they amended the dates to include this message. This John Doe, some guy on Facebook, I don't even know who he is. He messaged this library manager and said, "Shame on you." And they attributed that message to being my fault, that I was responsible that he said that. So that was the third interaction that they claimed that I had with this librarian, thus constituting that now this was criminal harassment. They had kind of forged this. They had just kind of created this diabolically in court.
Who's throwing the D word around? Come on, diabolical. What he's saying now doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And if something doesn't make sense in the words of Judge Judy, it's probably not true. I think we're missing details.
Witness this, and even my lawyer was appalled at this, saying like, what do we do with this? What is this, a practice trial? He's like, I would have asked different questions. I would have gone about this a totally different way. Right. And they didn't care at all. And we just continued on in that vein, and they convicted me as such. And they convicted me where I had already spent a month in jail for this initial charge. So the first 3 times I was arrested, I did 43 days in jail. And like I mentioned, just over a month for this specific charge. So that's time and a half. So that is, you can do the math, but in around 45 days, give or take. That, and I was on bail for 22 months. So we went for time served. No, that wasn't good enough for them. So it was 22 months on strict bail conditions. It was about 45 days in jail on paper, but they gave me on top of that severe strict house arrest for 1 year and then 2 subsequent years of probation.
Wow.
Which is just an egregious sentence for a 90-second conversation with somebody I don't even know, and then making a Facebook post about, hey, you can call this library and you can express your feelings about this program as well.
Yeah, but it's not only related to you just chatting with the librarian for 90 seconds. There's so much context leading up to that, and him mobilizing his rabid base, the way he's explaining it is very one-sided. But it's his side, so I guess that makes sense. But that doesn't make it good or...
What country do we live in?
So that you weren't expressing anger, or you weren't swearing. You were basically giving a peaceful message, and you
a peaceful message. You're all abominations. Yeah, that's peaceful.
Physical or any other kind of action. Considered harassment just because you were there.
Because I had a differing view on a public program. No threats uttered, no violence, nothing of that nature. Wasn't charged with any of that.
Because you're an uneducated bigot who doesn't understand how gender identity and how the history of gender identity has evolved throughout time. Gender identity and gender expression and gender diversity has existed longer than his version of his specific God. It's not something that's arguable. There's proof of gender identity. Go look at it. Go anywhere and you'll see the
So now that's why I'm sitting on house arrest. So we've appealed that house arrest, and the judge didn't even really look at it. And he said, well, Reimer, you're inciting the mob, and people that have been child abusers, they have been injured and they've been killed in the past. And once you've, unleashed the mob on somebody, then you've lost control. So he's holding me accountable and liable.
Is he comparing child abusers to this librarian? That's a weird thing to say.
Because nothing happened to her. The only thing that happened as a result that may or may have not been connected to me was one person messaging her 3 words. That was it. But he's using some imaginative hypothetical to, dismiss our appeal efforts. So not only that, what also has happened recently is that my acquittal, I was found not guilty for the Seton Library incident where I was ejected and thrown physically.
Okay, I don't remember how long ago this was recorded. So this was 1 month ago, and the acquittal was overturned. I think today. I think that headline that we read in the beginning. So we'll see what he says.
The room, or dragged out, as you put it. I was found not guilty, but the Crown couldn't just let that slide. He had to appeal that. So at the appeal hearing, the judge her verdict was that this is going to a retrial. So the retrial is in April 2026. So now we've appealed the decision of the appeal. I know it gets confusing. And that appeal hearing is next month, October 22nd, I believe. So we still have some road to cover here.
And he lost.
I went to jail over the summer. I got arrested because I had to be at court for the appeal of Seton Library. So I attended. Artur Pawlowski, a friend of mine, and other Christians, they join me, because when any Christian has trouble with the law and have court, we gather at the courthouse, an hour and a half prior to the court start, and we pray and we worship and we preach and we encourage each other. So we did that. We didn't think anything of it. I got arrested for having a church service at the courthouse. I was supposed to be at the courthouse, but they still found me guilty for an unapproved church service because I was on strict house arrest rules.
With all the language and the way that he's explaining it, he's really making himself out to be Jesus here, isn't he? Like, are you getting that vibe? He wants us to feel like he's the persecuted and everybody's out to get him, and people are just putting him in this big mousetrap and, oh, I'm such the victim. I mean, maybe he is the victim. I really don't think so, but you are not the savior. First of all, you're not Bendela Christ, and you wish you were.
Not Bendela Christ.
Kind of unnecessarily and outside, preaching and worshiping, and you're guilty. And I spent 2 months in jail for that, 62 days to be exact.
Really? Wow. I can hardly believe some of this stuff. But then you see what's going on in different parts of the country, what happened with the truckers, and is still happening to peaceful, law-abiding patriots who are trying to restore freedom in Canada. And we've had this situation I just found out this morning, the ostrich farm. Where...
What is the f***ing deal with the ostrich farm? Why is everybody talking about the ostrich farm? Do you know about the ostrich farm?
English and slowly, please.
Please tell me in the comments, because in all of these right-wing circles, everybody's talking about the ostrich farm. What happened? I'm gonna look up the ostrich farm situation, but that really bothered all these people. I have no idea what the context is.
Government agents for the CFIA and RCMP were on the verge of trespassing onto the property to murder these 399 ostriches that are healthy. And but anyway, that's another whole deal. But there was...
I'm sure it f***ing is, Rod Taylor. Oh my God.
The update today, there was a Supreme Court ruling that at least temporarily put the kibosh on this invasion.
Mm-hmm.
Not the kibosh.
Slaughter of these birds. So anyway,
that's what I heard. Praise God.
The Supreme Court did something right. I shouldn't say for once, but they have made some big errors in the past that have led to the destruction of 100,000 babies a year. And
yes.
Who's shocked that Rod Taylor is against bodily autonomy?
The introduction into our provinces of various perversions and whatever, but
whatever is exactly right.
In this case, I want to thank the Supreme Court for making a good decision about the slaughter of healthy ostriches in Edgewood, BC.
Absolutely.
Like, you shouldn't be killing healthy ostriches in Edwin, BC, but why is that so important to you? Like, I get it. I was upset about him causing harm to a dog in the beginning of this video, but why is that such a sticking point? There's gotta be more to the ostrich situation. I think that's a brand new sentence I just said for the first time.
Back to your situation, like I had the privilege of meeting your dad recently at this conference, and that's how we've gotten in touch with you. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. So this you've been under house arrest now for 9 months out of a 12-month sentence, and so you're a drywaller. That's how you make your living. And but as we were chatting before we began recording, you're allowed to do drywall, but you can't get the permission in time to make the contracts and get the work that needs, because it takes some interaction with the customer, the client, and things are, with drywalling, things are always in a hurry.
What?
So tell us about what it's like being under house arrest.
Okay, well, let's listen to this Jesus-loving Mission 7 pastor talk about drywalling while under house arrest while he's sitting on a futon. What are we watching? Why are you still here? Like, I'm glad you're here, and if you are still here, we have the same thing wrong with us, I'm sure. And it's not the gayness, okay? Shut up.
Yeah, so at the beginning of house arrest, it was actually quite easy, and nothing really changed in my life, because now for the last year or so, I'm a family man. I have my business, I have my ministry, and that encapsulates the majority of my life. And, like, I'm not really going outside of that. So, and I'm a very structured person. So then, within the parameters of the CSO or conditional sentence order, that's fine. I'm going to go and do my community service. My first PO, he allowed me to be out for work Monday through Friday. I think it was 7 o'clock to 6:30. I'm like, great, that's more than enough. Thank you for that. And if cops pulled me over, I'd still have to prove, in my understanding, the job sites and what I'm doing and why I'm out and about. So it would be a massive risk if I'm just, taking advantage of that and taking liberties. So going back to it, it wasn't really affecting me too much. But when I had fought, because they weren't letting me go to Mission 7, my ministry, my outreach downtown Calgary.
So then, what does house arrest even mean then if you can leave and go to work and do all that stuff? What's the point of house arrest? I can't look into it.
That was a problem for me. So I had appealed that and applied for a variation of my conditions, and I won, partially. So my probation officer, his discretion was, no, you can't go as a conflict of interest because you're the founder, you're on the board. And even though I provided alternatives, it just wasn't sufficient for him. So I had applied for the variation. I had provided these alternatives to a judge. She had awarded me 30 hours that I can serve out of my 100 hours for community service at my own ministry. So praise God for that. I was very excited about that. And now, legally speaking, I can be at my own outreach. But right after that, I got changed POs to a supervisor, so the head guy of the whole building. And as soon as I went under his supervision, then everything had changed. He revoked every exemption that I had. We started from scratch. And even when you start off with house arrest, they don't do anything for me, it was about 3 weeks. There was nothing. I didn't meet with anybody. I had no permission slips to do anything. So when I had started from scratch with this new supervisor, it was the same situation, just kind of sitting around for some weeks until we get the ball rolling. Because again, he revoked all of my permission slips. And then he had really tightened everything up on me, where now with work, I'm not allowed to be out 7 to 6:30 because I'm self-employed. I'm a subcontractor. That's why that was the most kind of appropriate arrangement that was conducive to my situation and the nature of my work, because jobs just pop up. Hey, can you come check and have a look at this job? Oh, you're going to need material. Oh, this isn't done at that job. I need to bounce around. Sometimes there's multiple job sites at once, simultaneously in the city. And so on the order...
Maybe you should have got a work from home job before you decided to go get arrested for hate speeching people at a public library so you could more easily be under house arrest. What in the world?
It says, providing my work schedule a week in advance. And so these probation officers, they have discretion. So like I said, that was the old probation officer's discretion, which I appreciated. But this new supervisor, it's almost like he was told from the top, make life miserable. Make this difficult.
Well, sucks to suck, doesn't it?
He's taking back territory. He's overruling our discretion in the court. And it's almost as if that was happening. There was some kind of conversation. Because now...
You mean collusion?
Demanded that, okay, I need a week in advance, a notice of your work. I need to prior approve it, verify it. He was asking for things that we don't even do, like these contracts, these official contracts. I'm like, I'm just a subcontractor. It comes in just via email, via text message, phone calls. Hey, can you do this job in the Southeast? Yes or no. That's all it is. Yeah. And so he was requiring all this information that we don't normally produce. So currently now, up to date, he's actually rejected more jobs than he's accepted. I've tallied it that it's been over $6,000 that he's robbed me and my family of. So today, actually, I had a bylaw court. Unfortunately, I lost because I couldn't do these drag queen story hour protests anymore. We had a banner opposing drag queens, and we'd hang it over overpasses. So I had a ticket. I thought they didn't have sufficient evidence. And I thought, well, I might as well fight it. I have a lot of time. Lost. And being at court, so now I'm applying for a variation of my work situation. And I'm applying for a transfer off of this supervisor and just fighting it and taking it all to court. That is this unjust. They're making me and my family suffer. I'm the sole provider, which was a mitigating factor to keep me on house arrest and not put me in jail for the year that they're asking for. They're asking for a year incarceration and 3 subsequent years of probation. But the judge just gave me the year house arrest, as I shared earlier, and the 2 subsequent years house arrest.
Well, then you should consider yourself lucky.
2 subsequent
you've actually spent
years probation.
Yeah, you've actually spent 105 days in jail, I think you mentioned that.
Yeah, so a total was 105.
So there are people, murderers, walking around who have spent less than that amount of time in jail. And
now that we can agree with, that is horrendous.
Certainly violent offenders who have walked on much shorter notice than that. So I think it's just it's a sign of the times. It's indicative of where our society's at, that someone proclaiming truth love, truth, and concern for these little victims in our society, these young victims of the ideologies that are out there, pushing them this way and that way, drawing them into lifestyle choices that they will later regret. The people doing that.
Again, it's been said a million times. I am one of the queerest people that I know, and coming from me, diva, I recently got a comment on one of my videos that somebody said couldn't make it past the first 15 seconds because this guy's delivery is far too queer. And you know what? I will wear that as a badge of honor. Anyway, Rod Taylor, I am one of the queerest people that I know. I had almost no queer representation in my life growing up. It didn't also make me straight. I still felt like something was different about me, something was wrong with me, and I internalized that as a moral and personal failing versus just the way that biology works. It's basically just making people feel like they are the problem. Whatever. I don't know. This whole thing is just depressing.
Walking around free as a bird, in fact, getting paid for it often with tax.
I'm like a bird, I want to turn off, 'cause Derek Reimer and Rod Taylor, they probably want to kiss each other. I'm like a bird, I want to turn this off, 'cause he's sitting on his futon. Got no money for croutons.
Find the note. Find the note.
$100, and you go to raise another aspect, another opinion about this, and you're in jail, hindered from doing, and now in house arrest, hindered from doing your work and your ministry. So, but it is a indicative of where our society's at, and certainly where our governments are at.
Yeah, and just to add to that as well, LGBTQ is like their type of state religion per se. And I say that because it's what they worship, it's what they bow the knee to, kind of figuratively or literally. And even when I go into these probation buildings, my office that I go to once a week and check in, and I never have to go there once a week in person to check in. It was just kind of call in and
He's
check.
going to say that there's a pride flag in there. I remember doing a video about a man where he was talking about transgenderism, not me using the right-wing language, about like queer culture as being a religion. But there is no deity. There is no all-knowing, omnipotent, all-creating, all-seeing, all-stupid God in queer culture. Like who? RuPaul? Jinx Monsoon? Trixie Mattel? Sure, they're all mother, but they're not God. That's the difference. And they don't care if you're gay. Nobody cares if you're gay, okay? If you're listening to this and you think, wow, I want to be just like David, or like, I want to be just like this person who is gay or queer, you can have all of the personality traits of that person that you like without having the queerness part attached to it, right? You can be femme as hell, you can paint your nails, you can be masked, you could be a butch lesbian without being a lesbian if that's your vibe, you know? You can be straight but have all the gay symptoms. Like, do whatever you want. Pick and choose from the personalities you see around you in the world and curate your best version of yourself, and nobody will give a rat's bahonka what your sexuality is. Nobody cares about your sexuality. They don't. Most queer people and almost all queer advocates care if you are happy. Period. It doesn't matter what that looks like. These people are stupid.
Maybe bi-weekly. That's why they really clamp down. There has been at least 3 pride flags that I've seen in that probation office. I've rebuked the supervisor. I said, you're an extension of the court. You're supposed to be neutral, especially on political ideologies. And what
Queerness is not, I guess queerness is political, or rather it has been politicized, but whatever.
doing here? How am I supposed to feel safe, or how am I supposed to build trust with somebody for the next 3 years being on the leash when this is what you're worshiping? I got a big problem with that. Even when I got arrested in the cop shop where they were processing me, they now have a pride flag as soon as you walk in. Like, this is outrageous. What this whole country is just bowing the knee again to this pride ideology. And even Carney, he took down one of the Canadian flags, I believe, and he put up the pride flag. So we have to be aware of this and what is happening. And
I think Carney has a trans child, no? A non-binary child? Something like that. Maybe I made that up. I don't think I made that up.
this is even old news with the cops and their uniforms that on the back on police and sometimes have the pride colors. Like, I don't see cops walking around with a cross on their shoulders or Jesus on the back.
Because nobody is born Jesus, or nobody is born religious. You are born gay. You are born who you are and you stay that, okay? You're only indoctrinated into religion.
I'm very concerned for Canada and the direction that we're going. Like, we've leaned so far left that we're pretty well upside down now. Yeah. And it's a disgrace.
Well, those on the other side and those in power, they often like to say they want to keep religion out of politics, religion out of government policy. But
separation of church and state, baby. Sing it, Rod Taylor.
As you so clearly articulate, they are following a religion. It's a religion that exalts the LGBT movement. It's a religion that is their sacred text has to do with climate change. And of course,
but even like, okay, Rod Taylor, that's funny and that's a joke and it's stupid, but it also doesn't make sense because climate change has nothing to do with queerness or drag. Well, tell that to Patagonia. But I forget where I was watching this clip, but it was a video not too dissimilar to this, but with different people. And there was a man who, it was Berta Proud Dad. Yeah. Anyway, he was like, those who can't do teach? What's that phrase? Those who do, and those who can't do teach? You know, it's that whole thing. I forget the specific verbiage. He added an extra thing on the end. So it was like, those who can do it, and those who can't do it, teach, and those who can't teach, start a DEI initiative. Oh, it's stupid. It makes no sense, but he gagged me with that one, sis.
And the Darwinian evolutionary model is part of their belief system that they cling to and defend, even against science.
So they're climate change deniers? Are they flat earthers? You're not telling me this thing's a sphere? F that.
They also, not universally, but the COVID, this bowing down to government policies regarding COVID.
How many right-wing dog whistles?
And that was held with religious fervor and zeal.
Fervor, the urban fervor.
And as you've experienced physically, sometimes even physical abuse, violent reactions to people who are simply speaking the truth in love.
Yeah, and if you speak against this, then they're going to fine you. They're going to possibly cancel you, fire you. They're going to put you in jail. They're going to charge you. And you know what? In these last days, I say, so be it. As Christians, we need to be ready to stand, be bold.
Yeah, he's the martyr. He's Jesus.
Just whatever comes our way, we count it all joy that we suffer shame for Jesus' name's sake. Fall into various trials. And I just say glory to God with the inmates that I could reach, I could pray for, I could witness to, read the Bible.
Oh God, imagine him roaming the jail cells talking to inmates.
Pray with and to show them how I live and who I love and who I serve. So I've had many encounters and
who you love? You mean you're indoctrinating them into your perversion of who you love? Ew, go roast Derek.
Privileged times that I could share with people that are desperate for Jesus, and some are indifferent, but nevertheless the gospel is preached, and I thank God for those opportunities. And realistically speaking, without divulging too much information, there could be more opportunities in the near future. But God's
for him to go to jail.
Want to be done, and I'm just ready to be used, and I want to be a vessel that's just pour my.
Me when I'm ready to be used. Oh my God, Derek!
God as a drink offering, like Paul says. And after my falling away from Christ in my teen years and into my 20s, and coming back, I'm just on fire. I'm all about Him. It's not just about attending church, but it's about following Him, loving Him, and serving Him. And just come what may in that. And I want to encourage other Christians to do the same. And we can all do something. And even right now with what we're seeing with Charlie Kirk and the assassination and murder that happened in the States, and this wave of revival and it's just igniting people and encouraging people. It's like, let's ride that. Let's let that spark us here in Canada, because Canada desperately needs it, as it's dark, as it's wicked. Any nation.
So much of this just seems homoerotically coded. Is that just me? We need to ride Charlie Kirk. I mean, that's not exactly what he said, but it's what I heard.
Sakes, the Lord turns into hell. I think it's Psalm 7 talks about this, and that's what exactly is happening to Canada. And we need to pray for her, and we need to shine our lights in Canada. A city on a hill cannot be hidden, so let's not be hidden. And for me,
don't let Satan blow it out. Holy balls, this is so long.
Choice that
There's 5 more minutes.
There's been some challenging conversations with my wife at times, but it's like, what? Christ and serving Him, that it comes first, and it will never be compromised. And I'm thankful that I have a believing wife that stands by me, even though it can be challenging sometimes, where she's with our son for 2 months, but she knows that's part of the cost, and that's part of the cross that we have to bear sometimes.
Yeah. Well, Derek Reimer, what a pleasure to speak with you, even though the topic is very sobering, somber in a sense, as to recognizing where our government is at.
It is sobering.
People like you shining the light, it makes a huge difference for all of us. And I think many of us have not, well, most of us have not borne the kind of cross that you are carrying at the moment.
Because he's Jesus.
What's happened to you, Paul promised that all who will live godly will suffer persecution. You are getting it in a degree that most of us have not yet had. We've all experienced some level of cancel culture, and people ignoring us or crossing the street because they don't want to talk to us about these issues. But
so that's not.
But
that's not what cancel culture is. But
been paying a price, and we thank you for being willing to do that. Is there a way that people can support you? Do you have
Yeah, not even a little bit interested in that. Okay. This was interesting. He was a lot more composed than I thought. It doesn't matter how neatly and politely you pack up bigotry, it's still bigotry, so it honestly doesn't matter. If you're interested in more religious videos like this, you can click on the playlist that's going to roll here on the end screen. Subscribe to this channel if you enjoyed this, especially if you're local. Let me know what you think down there in the comments, especially if you've seen this man out in the wild. I guess not in the last 2 years because he's been under house arrest, or if he drywalled your basement. I'd love to know. And I think I'm gonna leave it on the note of, our God is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God.